welcome to my channel. Today I have with me Mariela Cruz. Mariela has been a student of Sharat Joyce since 2003. She started her sadhana in the Krishna Patabi Joyce Ashtanga Yoga Institute in Gokulam, Mysore. She received her authorization level 1 in 2007 and the level 2 in 2009, one of the first batch to receive authorization to teach the intermediate series. She was in the first promotion of teacher intensives in the KPJYI in June 2009, led by Sharat Ji and his mother Saraswati. She is originally from Costa Rica, where she had a shala for 16 years. As a lawyer with 3 master degrees in law, she was appointed ambassador of Costa Rica to India from 2016 to 2018 and moved to India for her diplomatic mission. She's also mother of 7 children and practiced throughout her pregnancies with the help of Saraswati and her Guruji. From the moment she met her Guruji, she knew she had found a treasure. Sharat Joyce instructed her in the Advanced A and B series, and she is currently practicing up to Marichasana G in the 4th series of Ashtanga Yoga. With 58 years, she feels her advance in the practice was all due to her Guruji's grace. Mariela lives currently between India and Spain and is very fortunate to have numerous students in the Hispanic community. Her life motto is live fearlessly. Yoga is deliverance from sorrow. So, Mariela, an Ashtanga yoga teacher, you're also a writer and an author, which is not mentioned in the biography, in your bio. And Void is a Feathered Bed. I have been reading this book. I read it in I think in a day. I started in the morning and I was done by the evening. Beautiful book, so passionately written, and in a way very visceral about the whole practice of yoga. So, so I wanted to, and also you discuss your pregnancies and motherhood in the book. So I wanted to just have this conversation with you to understand what the journey of motherhood, what the experience of pregnancy is like for a practitioner of yoga, someone who has dedicated their lives to yoga. So to begin with, I wanted to ask you that there is a physicality to the practice of yoga that we just cannot ignore. Asanas are an integral part of yoga practice. So, and you have experienced pregnancy before and after being a practitioner. So you've seen both sides. So do you think there was a difference between the body awareness as a practitioner and as a non-practitioner?
Thank you, Pragya. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here, and I congratulate you for your motherhood. It's like before and after, isn't it?
Yes.
And I tell you, with the next baby, it's going to be also a before and after because each baby is different. And
Right.
each soul comes to us because we have a karmic connection to that soul, and we are the portal. We are, as women, the threshold for these souls to come into our very crazy world right now. You're in India, and my husband is Indian, so we have been watching closely everything that's been happening there. Wow.
Right.
And these are turbulent times for everybody. But especially, I really admire you because bringing babies into this world today, it's a mission of love. These babies are meant to raise the consciousness of the world, of the planet. And they're blessed souls that come to help. But being a mother in these times, it must be quite challenging. I'm a mother, but my babies are all grown. So,
Mhm.
but being in that service, in that seva, that is motherhood, I call it yoga 24/7. It's it's endless service until the end of your life. Yesterday, I was speaking to one of my sons. He was on a plane to Utah in the US because he's a climber and a yogi. And he was saying, Mama, here I go, praying for him. And he's already 29, 30 years old. And still, that connection with all of my kids is always present. So I want to tell all the moms that are here and even those women which are maybe not mothers or want to be a mom and everything that it's a very selfless path. And that is what yoga really is. Yoga is about selflessness and being available. And my teacher, and it's been 6 months since his passing, he was a father, he had children also. So he always uh, gave preference to mothers and fathers that were practicing in the shala. For example, they didn't have to queue. He knew that they were holding babies, that they had bad sleep and everything. So the parents would always go straight in. They didn't have to queue like the rest of us. And I was there 20 times with him in his school, and he was always very open to the transformation that happens to us as women in the practice. And as you say, Ashtanga looks very physical, but you have to look deeper. That's just the surface. That's just the tip of the iceberg. What is really happening in Ashtanga yoga is we are crumbling down the structure of the conditioning, of the samsara halahala, of the poison of conditioning. And as women, and you are Indian, I am Costa Rican, we have cultural expectations on how to be a woman, on how to be a mother. So when we come to yoga, we are in dangerous territory because we're going to start questioning all of that baggage. And the intention of practice is that we become cleaner as mothers, so we don't put that into our kids, as probably our parents did with us, because they didn't have the information or they didn't have the privilege, let's say, of accessing spirituality, not religion, which is different. Okay, and I grew up in a Catholic, environment, and it's different. It's not dogma. Yoga is the path of awakening. Is the understanding that we are souls on a spiritual path, and that as mothers, when our children come to us, it's like a sacred contract. We have been with them before in other lifetimes, and I study Jyotisha, so I do believe we are in the process of reincarnation and coming back again once, and so it's like an encounter that has been already there for many, many lifetimes. So it's very sacred, And what happens when some women want to have kids and they cannot have kids, no matter what they do? And what happens when women, we want to have kids, but for example, in my case, not as much. I have wanted two babies. I never expected seven. And then life chooses you as yoga chooses you. It's not that we practice yoga, it's that yoga considers us deserving. And then the teachers come in, and then the books come in, and then the relationships come in. So when we practice, I think any type of yoga, and you have been sharing a lot about Gita Iyengar, a woman that I admire so much. It's amazing, and it's incredible. Yoga for women is different than yoga for men. And that has been part of my endeavor as a mother, as a woman who has been through so many changes in her body. Many of the Ashtanginis, let's say, they don't have children. Actually, I spoke to a few of them, when we were in Mysore, and they were coming to me and saying, should we have babies? We're going to lose our practice. Is this like really smart to do this? And some of them did go for the baby, and some of them did not. And it's okay, it's a very personal thing, but also it's beyond our control. We can go through so many IVs and lose all the babies. We can get pregnant and have a miscarriage. We can, so many things can happen. So when a baby comes to term, when a baby is actually born, and when a baby grows and you see them expanding their energy, is the greatest miracle. It's something that is beyond our understanding. Only going through it, and you were asking me, is there a difference between a vaginal delivery or a C-section? Or it doesn't matter. The baby chooses us, and the baby chooses how to come into the world. So the physicality, the viscerality that you were speaking about, it's so common both in motherhood and in practice, at least as an Ashtangi.
I
Yeah,
see.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you just touched upon this very interesting thought that a lot of women practitioners have, that, what if I lose my practice? Like, I will lose my practice. So, and you've mentioned that in yoga sadhana for mothers, which is where I've heard about you, and I read about your story for the first time. So you speak about how there was a frustration about your body not obeying the mind, and in yoga, regard like in all styles of yoga, in all lineages, it is about the mind and the body connection. And here, in a way, you're saying, okay, now that connection doesn't seem to be there. But the interesting thing I found about your story is that you're talking about actually spiritual growth happening because of this. So, which seems counterintuitive, like, oh, my body's not following my mind, but yet there is spiritual growth in this. So, tell us a little bit about that thought, like how you arrived at this, this idea that, well, or this realization rather, that spiritual growth is happening, and how can practitioners really reconcile with this, because it's
Mm.
hard, because I went through it myself, like I was saying, like, before we started filming, that the first trimester I couldn't do anything because I was fatigued and nausea. So and also, when your body starts to grow, if you're a first time mother,
Yeah.
you everything is so new, and you don't know, like, how the body's going to be. So tell us a little bit about your experience. What's your advice for yoginis who are in that phase? Yeah.
Well, I came to this understanding through the experience itself.
Hmm.
And I think yoga is such a beautiful word. It has 4 letters, just like life. For me, yoga and life are the same. And life is unpredictable.
Hmm.
Life happens. No matter how we want to gear it and control it. I mean, we have free will, of course. We can say, okay, I want to have a baby. But sometimes baby come, like my last one came, and I was not expecting him to come. My sixth one was 5 months old when I got pregnant with my last one.
Oh.
I was not expecting another baby. I mean, I was breastfeeding, you understand?
Hmm.
This is when you realize there's a bigger plan for all of us, including those women who cannot have babies, which is very beautiful. Some women cannot have babies and they feel somehow they are not like women enough. And that's so off, because it's all conditioning. Each soul has a different path. And for those of us who that we have babies, biological babies, that's the path for us. Maybe we never thought of it. Like in my case, when I was a kid, I never thought of having babies. I never played with dolls. I thought that was not like cool. I like my bike. I like skating. I like going into treetops. And I was always dirty. And I was not the prototype of a mom. Some girls, they feed the baby. I was not that. I was like exactly the opposite. And then I went into a very academic and intellectual pursuits, my legal career. And I really wanted to study and I really wanted to travel. And when I got married, I was just 20 years old. I was already a lawyer. And yet there was this, profound love. So again, yoga, life, love, 4 letter words. And the number 4, is very, very interesting because that's the sign of Cancer in the
Hmm.
Kundli. And Cancer is motherhood. Cancer is water also. So the quality of being a mother implies being flexible, being
Hmm.
like water. And that's a great teaching for a yoga practitioner, especially for a woman. Because when I used to just grow 40 pounds bigger with each pregnancy. Can you believe I'm really tiny and I'm actually small? And then I would become like this whale, and I was saying, oh my goodness, the practice was completely gone. I could only swim, in the pool. Like, and at the same time, understanding that the body is being used for a greater purpose. So it's the same in yoga. And I'm not referring only to the asana part, I'm referring to the yamas and the niyamas. And the importance of staying non-violent towards your body image and understanding that the body is not yours anymore. I had a friend in Costa Rica and she always used to say, pregnancy is like being possessed. You have to give like the whole control to the baby. The baby will tell you when to pee, when to eat, when to sleep, how to sleep. And when the baby is born, then the baby becomes the guru. The guru says, you need to rock me at 2 a.m. in the morning. And we are like, and now you please don't eat tomatoes because otherwise I'm gonna get colicky, in the milk. And it's mostly about listening.
Mm,
Listening to our body, how the body starts changing. Like you say, in the first 3 months, oh my goodness. That's why we don't practice in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy because there's so many subtle changes. You start perceiving life differently. You start like you grow new eyes, new ears. You feel the skin is changing, the belly is expanding, but not only the belly, I think the heart is expanding to contain not only your baby, but all the babies and all the mothers in the world. So this interconnectedness, I actually started my yoga studio in Costa Rica with a group of 40 pregnant ladies. That was the start of my studio. They wanted to come for instruction, and they were not really like yoga for pregnancy. Like nobody knew about Gita Iyengar, in Costa Rica. And we started exploring, and every birth was a celebration. And actually, that's the most extraordinary gift that we can get as women, to receive a baby and to be able to be witness of their growth in every area of their life and of our growth as well as mothers. Because once we have our baby, we are not a woman anymore. We are a mother above a woman.
mm,
Baby is always in our heart, no matter if they're 35 years old or whatever, they're always there with us. So being able to listen, I think that's very important, and let go of any expectations. Because as I was telling you, as a Costa Rican woman, I had a lot of expectations on how to be a woman, how to be a mother, what is allowed, what is not allowed. Like I was traveling to India, that was not allowed. You
mm,
understand? I was leaving my children a month every year because I needed to be with my guru. That was not allowed, that was frowned upon.
mm,
And at the same time, understanding that you are the creator of your life. And that is so important to listen to your heart. And maybe if you have a supportive partner, oh my God, that's the best thing you can get as a mother. If you have a supportive environment also that allows for self-care, that you have time for your spiritual practice, you have someone to take care of the baby for an hour,
mm,
or maybe you have help that comes and does the cooking or something like that, that is also support for your spiritual path. So there's a beautiful quote that we don't need to teach our kids to be extraordinary, that they're going to find for themselves. We just need to be faithful to ourselves, to take care of ourselves and teach them how to take care of themselves and respect themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, there's so much in what you just said. So the first thing that jumps out at me is you're talking about essentially a very spiritual approach to being pregnant. That this is a higher calling. It's a higher role that you're going to be playing, mother above woman. You're no longer a woman. You're a mother. I feel like in India, a lot of women they become pregnant because it's expected, and they're very young.
Yeah.
A lot of younger, maybe even like 25,
Mhm.
and I feel that, for them, because at 25, a lot of them may not even have a spiritual practice established yet. And they it's hard for them to reconcile this idea because they haven't even been women yet for long enough,
Like in my case, yeah, I went through
ah,
that. Yeah.
so 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 what would you say to them? Like what would you say to that, that young, when you got pregnant for the first time, you're so young, not even fully a woman, you can say, not enough spent enough time on earth as a woman. How can they, because it's gonna see, in India, women, younger women are always going to get pregnant. This is how the society is. You get married and you have children. So that's not about to change. But how can we help women, who are young, who might not have a spiritual practice or even a yoga practice? But now, of course, everyone has started to say that yoga is really great for pregnancy. So I see a lot of younger women coming to yoga for pregnancies and during, prenatal. So, but the spiritual aspect, I think maybe you can shed a little light on that, because I feel you've lived the path, so you'd be able to tell us better.
Well, I was 20 when I got married,
Mm,
and even though I was already a lawyer, I had finished my law school, but I was so immature and I was so innocent and I was really in love. I was completely in love. So there was like yeah, like a need. It was not like expected, but there was like a need of completion with your partner and that beautiful time, when you're just newlywed and then when the baby is born, there's a question in, at least in my case, that started happening. I'm a lawyer. Okay, is this is it? So now I am a mother, and what about my life? I started like questioning what was going to happen to me as a person, as a woman. Um, and I watched many women in my family completely identify with the role of a mother. And there was a part of me that was not okay with that. I wanted to be a professional. I was already a lawyer. So when my baby girl was born, I have a son and then a baby girl. I decided to go back to the university and get my first master's. And there was not like a lot of support in my partner or my family. No, no, the baby is just born, you have to be there for the baby. And I managed to do it. I was running from the university to the home to breastfeed, and my lawyer friends would come to my home because I had the babies, and I did it. And
mm,
that was like a sign for me saying, wow, you can do it. It's not easy. Of course, I had help.
mm,
I had my family, and I have like in Costa Rica, it was still like in India, like you can get maids and
mhm,
nannies, and I had that kind of help. But there's a voice inside of each woman that needs to find herself. And the role of a mother is so huge, because it takes all your energy. It's your love, you love your babies. It's like you think of them all the time. You're like, but there's also other like realities in your being, your
yeah.
womanhood. Like it's important when we have babies, for example, to have a date with the husband because otherwise the husband is going to feel completely neglected. You're always with the baby and you're always speaking about the baby and you're like, "No,
Mm,
it's okay, what's going on here? She was mine and now she's taken." That's
yeah.
one balance, and your partner. And then your career, if you are now, thank God, many women are financially independent when they get married or they already work or they're, especially in the metropolis in India, that's happening. Like women are more, educated and they have goals for themselves, they don't want to be dependent on anyone. And I think it's important to create a lifestyle that allows for everything.
Mm,
You have your passion, it can be your career or something else, that you have your time with your partner, that you have your time with your baby, and so you need help. You need to ask for help because if you want to do it all alone, it's not going to work. And you need to ask, like in my case, I found my teacher. Wow, and it was a great inspiration for me. Okay, that was the sign, like with my last three pregnancies, that somehow I needed to make it work so I could keep traveling my annual trip to Mysore.
Mm.
every year, even though I was pregnant, even though I had the babies, even though, and that took a lot of creativity, because there's a tendency, I think, at least in my culture in Costa Rica, that the woman should be there and just do it all, take care of everybody, and be quiet. And I don't know if that's the way in India, but you need to ask for your space. You need to say, speak to your partner and say, yeah, I gave birth to the baby. I love the baby. I love you, but I need 1 month in India.
Mm.
And they may say, yeah, sure, don't worry, go. And they may say, we'll manage, you can do it. And you may even say, I'll come with you, which will be really wonderful. Or they may say, are you crazy? And
Mm.
that's the moment that you need to start, like, you know, uh, becoming more creative. And so yoga and life and love and pregnancy and motherhood makes you more creative. You need to go deeper into your resources and say, I really want that. How am
Mm.
I going to make it happen? And you need to ask for help,
Yeah.
because women, we are all conditioned to do it all on our own, and to do it perfectly, and
Mm.
to do it nicely, and on top to be in absolutely good shape and with a smile and with the food ready. That's humanly impossible unless you can delegate, okay, you do this, you do that.
Mm.
And the most important priority is your mental health. So this is where practice comes in. And I'm not only referring to having the luxury of 2 hours a day to do your Ashtanga practice, which is long, but or maybe having, a time to sit in meditation and sip your tea in peace, or have some quiet time, or be away from the family, even go to the gym, or go take a walk, or take a swim somewhere. Like, have your own time as a person.
Mm.
And that is going to nurture you so you can go back and keep giving. Because as I said, it's a path of selfless giving, day and night, for the rest of your life. And when I think of that, I go, my goodness, yeah. I am 58. I started being a mom. Wow, 38 years ago. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And it changes and it gets more beautiful, because the space of spirituality makes you really appreciate the beauty of the experience, the beauty of each child, the beauty of the understanding that is way deeper than a physical experience. I mean, at least in Costa Rica, there was like this predicament, especially in the new generation, that they didn't want to have a vaginal delivery, that it was too painful, that no, you make me the appointment for the C-section and I'll be there. And then they didn't want to breastfeed because, the breast change, and they didn't want to lose the breast. And
Mm.
you understand, you can also approach it like that. I mean, I have no judgment. But fully embracing the experience, fully embracing the 40 pounds, fully embracing the type of birth that happens, fully embracing also the baby that comes to you. One of
Mm.
my babies had this thing that he would like eat, and then all the milk will come out. And,
Mm.
and that's very intense for a mom, because you have to feed the baby, but the baby is rejecting
Yeah.
they have this reflex. So you need to get a special type of bed. You need to be really calm yourself when you breastfeed them, because if you're stressed, then they feel the stress. And
Yes.
it's a so it's really beautiful. It's like a connection that starts from yourself. What do you want? How do you want to experience motherhood? How do you want to experience life?
Mm.
And that is where yoga is super, super, I would say, necessary for every human being, but especially for mothers.
Lovely. That's beautiful. A lot of in Void is a feathered bed. A lot of the things that you spoke about, like the cultural context in Costa Rica, I could relate it to India also. There's so many things, especially when you talk about like generational, it can be trauma or expectations of women, or the approach. to the women and the patriarchy, all of that, I it is it you might as well have been talking about India, so I could relate to that very deeply.
Mhm.
And also, I wanted to ask you, while you were talking about this, um oh gosh, you said something so beautiful. Anyways, it'll come to me. um I want also, like, you've had C-sections and vaginal deliveries, right? Both. So, was there a difference? Like, I know you're talking about like embracing the process, what kind of delivery happens, but this whole, like you're saying, like in Costa Rica, women want to schedule a C-section and then they don't want to breastfeed. Yes, that is also there in India to some extent, but then there is this whole idea. In fact, there was, recently I shared on my Instagram also, where a very famous movie star was saying how proud he is of his daughter for choosing to have a natural delivery, and how, this is a man who's talking about like how proud he is of this happening, and she could have opted the easy way out, and gone for a C-section. uh so yeah, so in fact, this is when you were talking about it, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. What would you say, because a lot of women now have that, they put that pressure on themselves. We have a lot of people coming to prenatal yoga classes saying, I want a natural delivery, so
Ah.
help me with that. So, what would you, what is your idea about that? Since you've had both deliveries also, both kinds, in terms of healing, like there's a idea in India that if you have a natural delivery, or what they call a normal delivery, a natural delivery they call a normal delivery, as though anything else is abnormal. So, having been through both yourself, do you think it is like healthier, or that it is better, or what would you say about that?
Well, again, the forward yoga, love, life. I mean, we cannot judge anything,
Yeah.
because if we're judging, then we're not doing yoga. Yoga is the unconditional acceptance of what is.
Mm.
And I wanted to refer 1 second to the title of the book, Void is a Feather Bed. That was given to me by my daughter.
Oh.
It's incredible because, I was showing her the manuscript and everything, and she says, Mom, and I thought it was so beautiful. Life is like that. Life is like a void, and you have to jump. For example, when we get married, we are in love with this man. We are not sure what's going to happen, and still we go for it. When we find that test that says positive, oh my God, I'm gonna be a mother. It's like, and you're like, you could say, I'm not doing this. I can't. I don't have the resources inside. I'm quitting. It's like, and
Mm.
yet you chose to go forward and move with it. So the book was written, as you say, from a very visceral space in me. I was going through a lot of personal changes, especially in between, after my ambassadorship that was written in 2018. And I had lived in India for 2 years, and India has been my love since the first time I went in 2002. And I truly believe I was Indian, that I was in the wrong country. And I went to India, and I took like doors and sculptures and rugs and everything, and brought them to my home because I wanted to live in India. And yet I couldn't, because I have these kids, and I knew I was like there. I had to be there. And yet I had my month, and that was like somehow quenching the thirst, but then I had to go back. So this feeling of life being like uh, like life requires courage. Life requires this feeling of fearlessness. And that is what motherhood requires, because you are going to love this cute, beautiful little being so deeply. And you don't know what is going to happen. Anything can happen. So the understanding that is beyond our control, that everything is beyond the control, at least for me, like speaking now, I didn't know it then, of course, I wanted to control everything. And I had my ideas of how my births were supposed to be and everything. And for example, I had all natural deliveries, and with my sixth boy, I was so sure that everything was going to go fine that I even invited my daughter and my sister-in-law to be in the birth so they could see a mother giving birth. You understand that? And so they could learn how to give birth. And that was my hardest birth of all because, we had the incense, we had the super cool doula, we had the pool in the hospital, everything, and the baby didn't come out. And he didn't come out. And it was an emergency birth with forceps, and I was anesthetized, and it was so traumatic, so much that I went into postpartum depression. And then I got pregnant when he was 5 months. And those were, I look back, and those were such hard years. I had no yoga practice, of course, because I was either breastfeeding or I had no time for myself. I thought my dream of my own career, my own passion, the yoga was over. And at the same time, these babies were perfect. These babies were all love. And I was just so much in love with them. So there was a deep contradiction. You understand? It's like a paradox. So my uh, gentle reminder for all mothers is that you don't have to do it either or. You have to be open to however life unfolds. For example, if you want to have a C-section and you're sure you don't want to experience the vaginal birth, which is quite intense, that's great. That's wonderful. But sometimes the script changes. If you're going for a vaginal delivery, I would advise you to get a midwife. To have a midwife with you all the way, not your husband, because your husband is not a woman and they don't know what to do. They get super scared. And if you can have also a doctor who is a lady, who is a mother, that would be super useful if you're going for the vaginal one. I wouldn't say, having had the C-section on my seventh birth, that the C-section is easier. I would say it's very violent, it's very painful. When you have a vaginal delivery, after 1 month, you can go back to your mat. When you had a C-section, the rest of your life, you're going to be feeling the wound because they not only cut your muscles and your nerves, and they completely upset the flow of energy in your body. And of course, I didn't know that. And in my case, I had no choice because I was injured in one hip and I couldn't squat, and you need to be squatting to give birth to your baby naturally. That's like the Indian toilets. That's
Yeah.
the best way to do it. And I had no choice, I was injured. But what I tell you is like trust life, and don't feel that you didn't do it the right way. Just know that what happened was perfect and your baby's in your arms, and that's what matters the most. And I would really advise again having those home births, with the candles and that, because you never know how it's gonna go. In my case, even though my midwives were not happy about it, I always said, we're going to the hospital. And yeah, let's create the atmosphere in the hospital. If you get an open mind doctor, you can do that. But in case there's an emergency, I don't want to have the stress of, going in an ambulance, and who knows if you have time, and just be safe, be safe. And a friend of mine, she had the baby under the sink in the kitchen, and the baby just came out, and that's also beautiful, and if the baby is born in the car, that's fine, those are very healthy birds.
Mm.
But if you have the chance to choose, I would say listen to your heart. If there's something in your heart that says, I don't want to have the vaginal thing, don't do it, no matter what. Oh, it's the normal, dream-like birth. We don't know, it can turn into a nightmare. So
Mm.
go with your heart and you're going to be fine. And don't regret anything. Every experience is meant to happen as it happened. And in that, Vedic astrology has helped me a lot, because I started studying Vedic astrology in the pandemic because of my kids. And once I had the chart of each child, I could understand that the way they were born was the perfect way they were meant to be born. And you can also see how you are in their chart as a mother. Like in the case of your baby, if you see her chart, her moon is going to be in a specific place, and that's you. And it describes you completely. And it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful how it keeps unfolding, and the experience of motherhood gets deeper and deeper. And one thing that is very important is from day one, you let go of your baby. And again, a paradox, because you want to have them, it's my baby, it's my flesh, it's just, and at the same time, know that your baby is not your baby, it's life's baby. You are just like a servant. They have their own path, they have their own karmas. They
Mm.
may live 100 years, they may live 5 years, they may live sick, they may live healthy, they may have an accident, they may be fine, we don't know. And yet there's a deep trust that these beings were entrusted to us because we're worthy of them. And that helps a lot with judgment, especially because mothers, we can be really, oh, I'm such a bad mom, I'm going to India every year, I'm leaving the kids behind. And guilt can be very heavy because you're not complying with the script of what a good mother is. And I think as mothers, each one of us, we need to create our own path.
Mm.
Each baby is different. Like with your first baby, is going to be mm, a certain type of mom. If you have more babies, it's going to be different. It's a very unique relationship with each one of them.
So I have to say that, hearing you talk about, how how you are a person, and yes, you're a mother, but you have to find time for your husband, you have to find time for your dreams, and the baby is, anyways, it is your life. Like you're never gonna ignore the baby. The only thing I can say is that it's inspirational. Like it just gives a lot of hope, I think, for a lot of women who are mothers for the first time, because they don't know. We Because I remember when I had my baby and I was like, okay, my yearly trips to Pune. So the Iyengar Institute is in Pune, and I'm like, okay, well, now, I don't know when I'll get to go back and this, and I was talking to myself like that. And then I remembered that once in one of my trips to Pune, I had met a lady from Brazil. And she's part of the Iyengar Yoga Association in Brazil, and she had three children. And she would come from Brazil all the way to India, and she would plan it and she would manifest it. And you're talking about the same thing with seven children, and doing the same thing. So I think it's a definitely a lesson for me. I'm right here. I'm right next to Pune, and it just makes me think that yes, it is possible, Pragya, and it is easier for you. That's something that I think I would take away from all of you who are coming to India in the pursuit of yoga. And I always tell a lot of my other students also, a lot of students who come to me, a lot of mothers who come to me, and I tell them, look at how so many women, they're managing to come to India, the visas and the how the children and their schools and their professions. And so it's something I think is very inspirational. And it also reminds me of something that my dance teacher told me. And that's what I was actually going to say when I told you it's going to come to me. When you were talking about, remember, there are so many different facets to you. You went to university right after having one child, and that's something that a lot of women would not even conceive of. For them, it's like, okay, it's this is it now. Now I am a mother, which means excluding all the other aspects of me. But I remember my dance teacher told me that yes, you are a mother, and yes, that is a priority. But remember all the hard work that you've done for other pursuits that you have in life, who you are as a person, and that you deserve to go on and realize all of that also. So I think what you're saying is so enlightened, and I think a lot more women really need to hear that. Because maybe at some level we understand that, but I think that message doesn't come to us so clearly. Um,
Mhm.
so thank you for that. Um,
Yeah, of course not. Society wants us to be just mothers
yeah.
because that way we are controllable. You understand? Otherwise, we're a wild force. We are the Shakti itself.
Yeah.
So it's very important, like I told you, the moment you get your baby in your arms, this is the first step of saying goodbye. Because a truly good mother is the one that becomes unnecessary. Like in the case of my eldest kids, my eldest, he lives in Germany, he's finishing his PhD in psychology. He's like, and yeah, we speak here and there, but I know he's on his track. My daughter, she's in Costa Rica, she's already a mother, she's doing her art, she's a painter. I know she's on her track. We speak here and there. I'm not always like, what are you doing? Hey, what's happening? No. I respect them as souls. My other two kids, they each one has their passion. One of them is a businessman, and the other one is a climber. He loves mountains. It's so wonderful and so important to respect our kids as souls, not as our children. Because there's a tendency, oh, I'm the mother, so they should listen to me, especially in India. But
Yes.
also in Costa Rica, I have this role and they should be like, obeying me, and they're adults.
Yeah.
So actually, there comes a point that you absolutely need to let go of them, even when you're pregnant, because you don't even know how the pregnancy is going to turn. You don't even know if you're going to get a healthy baby. You may get a baby that is sick and is your karmas, and you have to take care of that baby. It's your flesh. And it can become a really spiritual experience. You can lose your kids. My second book that you have not read because it's still only in Spanish is about the loss of my little children, the three ones. I lost them in a custody battle after my ambassadorship. So this was an incredible lesson for me of detachment because they were small. They were 6, 8, and 10 years old. And I wanted to have them in India, and the father wanted to have them in Costa Rica. And of course, the patriarchal judges rule for Costa Rica. The mother has to come here. She has to be a normal mother. And I'm not a normal mother. Look at my arm. I am
Mm.
not. And I refuse to be one. And I refuse to bow to patriarchal ideas.
Mm.
So the price, the sacrifice for that was that I lost them. But I don't think I lost them. I think I showed them a way to be in the world. And when they grow up, maybe they will say, wow, that was my mom. She did not bow to injustice. So having the courage to be yourself, I think is the best lesson you can give your children because they're watching. And you and me, we're watching our parents
Mm.
all the time. We are like, there. And I have the great fortune of having my parents alive. And they keep going and they have been great teachers. And there's been a lot of pain, like you say, a lot of viscerality in these relationships. It's like, oh my God, their conditioning and the need we all need as human beings to be ourselves, to be truly ourselves, to step away from our parents' journeys. That's
Mm.
so important. And to respect your child when they're doing that. Instead of saying, oh, I know best because I am the mom. You don't know. They
Mm.
may be doing the right thing for them. And you don't know who are you. And I had a lot of this with when the kids go into their teens. You're gonna experience this in a few years. And you absolutely think they're doing the worst thing for their lives.
Mm.
And it turns out it was the best thing for their lives.
Mm.
So that thing that you don't know, you are just a channel. And you're there just to witness the miracle of their unfolding. Um, a beautiful teacher I had in my first years of my journey as a seeker. She told me that kids were not like, like mud that you had to. No, they already come fully accomplished. You just had to hold them so they can blossom. And what does it mean to hold them? To feed them, to bathe them, to take them to the school, to maybe take them to paint classes or music classes or soccer or whatever, but letting them be.
Mm.
And each child is going to surprise you. And do you have siblings?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yes. So you had the same parents, but I'm sure each one of you is completely different.
Yes.
And, and appreciating the difference and never comparing them. You should be like your eldest brother. That's a lot. That happens a lot in India.
Yeah.
Oh no, they are the example for the family. That's so heavy for the eldest child. No, you need to be yourself. Please, you have my support. You don't want to go to university. Okay, what are you gonna do? Tell me. I'm interested.
Mm.
Why should you become an engineer or a doctor? Like, no. Do you want to be a healer? Whoa, go ahead. Do you want to be a car racer? Wow. Do you want to be a painter? Go. You have my blessings for everything.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I guess you're saying motherhood is about acceptance, letting go, surrender. Yeah, it's almost like you're saying it's the highest level of spiritual sadhana. Uh,
Yeah, but to be able to say that, you need to walk the talk. And this is where my blog, if you have not read it, it caused a lot of waves in the Ashtanga community because
yes, I've read the blog. Yes.
I said, this is not right for me anymore. And I had the duty to tell that to my students, because your students ultimately become like your kids. They're watching you all the time. I'm sure my students are going to listen to this interview and they're going to say, she told us all the time this. And now what is she doing? I
Mhm.
have to be coherent with
Yeah.
what I have taught them for 20 plus years. And I was. And it has not been easy for me. And the same with the loss of my kids in the custody battle. Your mom is not going to bow down to injustice,
Yeah.
even if price is that high. So the courage to walk our own path is like the same thing that happens with a guru, that I had the experience with my guru Sharat Joyce. He was opening the path. They are called Jangalikas in the Ashtanga invocation. They are the doctor of the jungle, and they are opening space for us to move forward and advance spiritually. And actually, right now, Pragya, I can tell you his death was the greatest blessing for my path. And even though in the moment I could not understand it, I was so attached to him. And he made me walk in my two legs and say, you don't need me anymore now, go. And it's the same thing that the mother, the bird does to their babies. She just pushes them out of the nest so they can fly. If she wants to keep them all the time under her wings, they're never going to fly. They're never going to become who they are.
Yeah.
And we want our babies to become who they are. And for that, we need to be on the journey to become who we are as mothers, as women of the 21st century, as practitioners.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, a lot to take away for practitioners from what you've just said.
Mm.
Um, one another question that I had for you was how was the recovery from a C-section? Like you said, like for the rest of your life, you're going to be feeling that because energetically you're split. But how, like I know a lot of yoga practitioners, we're so impatient to get on the mat again, and we just want to like we miss the practice, and you're so connected to the practice. So what is the best way of recovering from a C-section?
Well, I'm a passionate of India, and India has so much uh, wisdom. And you're Indian, so you should be so happy, because as Westerners, we travel the world to
Mhm.
come to this knowledge, to these Vidyas. And the Mahavidyas, that's the beauty of the Mahavidyas, of yoga, of Ayurveda, of Jyotisha. They transform you as you study them.
Mhm.
So I was very lucky to know a wonderful doctor, an Ayurveda doctor in Mysore, and I have been working with him for the past 20 years.
Mm.
And after you deliver, either way, vaginal C-section, emergency birth, like in my case, you need to oil for the next 40 days. You and your baby need to oil. The abhyanga is so important because in that expansive experience of giving birth, there's a lot of energy that comes out, and then the mother is super open. There's a lot of vata element, and the vata element makes you very anxious and
Mm.
makes you very jittery and makes you very nervous. You know how to call the baby, especially the first baby, and if the baby's gonna fall, why is she crying? I'm like, you don't know, you don't understand baby talk yet. So oiling is gonna calm you, and the oil, the abhyanga, and oiling your baby, and you do that in India, so you
Mm.
have all that wisdom. And I would advise, and I do it every Saturday for Shani. I oil my body from top of the head, and I'm there 1 hour, doing my prayers, doing my mantras, and then I take bath in hot water, and then I feel new. I tell my husband, you want me to do the oil bath. Because I'm a better person after oil bath. That's one thing. Also, what you eat, what you eat becomes not only food for your recovery, but food for your baby because you're breastfeeding. And if you can breastfeed, I used to breastfeed my babies 1, 2 years if I could.
Mm.
Uh, your milk is the best food for your baby, for at least for the first 6 months. When they start growing teeth, then you can start giving them a little banana here, but breastfeed your babies. That is going to help you go back to your original weight. Isn't that amazing? It's so beautiful. It's so like God, the goddess is so perfect. So choose to breastfeed, and yeah, the size of your breasts are going to change. It's fine. You are a servant of the master. Breastfeed them. They're not going to get sick. They're going to be protected. They're going to grow strong. They're going to go, and they're going to feel safe and secure. Some of my midwives, they were advising for the baby to sleep with me. It's something that I did not do. I had the baby in a separate crib, and I would just put them with me and take them back.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I still felt like the bed was me and my husband, and the baby was there, but it was coming. But then you have to choose. Some moms really want to sleep with their babies, and that's fine. It's so incredible, like the wisdom of the body. You're never going to crush your baby, even if you're sleeping. Isn't that beautiful? It's just, I
Mm.
think, so fascinating.
Yeah.
And then, it is very important how you eat, and when you eat, you have to see that the foods don't affect the baby. And then sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes eating lentils makes the baby feel uncomfortable. Tomatoes, many things, that no alcohol, no cigarettes.
Right.
And then one thing that was very important for me, and I learned from my midwives, after the birth, you have to put a cloth around your belly. And that is also going to help you. That feeling of like not being super open, especially
Right.
um, in this world that right now feels very violent and scary,
Mm.
and and using that every day. And if you have a vaginal delivery, in my case, 1 month after the delivery, I was on my mat doing my Surya Namaskar very slowly, modified. In this book that you have there, the sadhana for mothers, there's a modified primary series for pregnancy,
Yes.
because in pregnancy, many of the series has to be adjusted.
Mm.
And you can do them, but you need to know, it doesn't feel right. You cannot go into your belly. You cannot like uh, do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do handstands, and my students were like, "Oh, you crazy!" But I was comfortable. Once in Mysore, I did the full second series intermediate led with my teacher, and I was 1 month pregnant with one of my sons. And
Wow.
you have to ask the baby. But what matters the most is that you have a positive attitude, that you stop complaining. I mean, you chose to have this baby. So if the baby doesn't sleep until they're 5 years old, that's okay. This is my practice. I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night to cuddle the baby. Like, instead of saying, "Oh, I didn't get this baby," no, the baby that you got is the best. Is the teacher for this uh, part of your life. And once they grow, then you regret like not being fully present. You know, you're like thinking, "Oh, when are they gonna grow so I can travel?" No, no, enjoy your baby now. And if you can, like in your case, you know, Pune. So I was once in the institute, and Mr. Iyengar was still alive, and
Oh, wow.
we went there, and I was looking for a yoga. But then when I went to Mysore, you know, my teacher was
Yeah,
there. It's so beautiful, you know. So go to Pune, travel with your baby, you know, and make it happen. It's so important. It's
I
because
will.
otherwise you're gonna regret it. You're gonna feel like, you know, you're missing something in life. And motherhood should not be that. Kids want to be part of your life, and they're gonna grow up with a mom that is a yoga practitioner. Wonderful, you know. My babies used to ask me, "Why are you not a normal mother?" Of course, like in the parent meeting in the schools, I used to cover my tattoos. You know, I used to go there like a lawyer, you know, like a normal. But they grew up, you know, my shala was in my home. So they were always in contact with the practice, with my classes, with my schedule, really early morning. They met a lot of my colleagues. They were always interacting with my students. It's like, it's part of their karma.
That's beautiful. I think, through this conversation, also through your journey and through your story, you've shown that although motherhood can be a time when we're very vulnerable and we're uncertain, yet it can be, like I was saying, the highest level of spiritual growth. So, and that's beautiful. I think you've shown so many ways that we can make motherhood something which is rewarding and something which helps us grow.
Yet, you know, it's very important to speak about the shadow of
Mhm.
motherhood. And if you're feeling low and if you're feeling like sad or frustrated, and know that it's part of it. Know that we all have moments of deep regret sometimes, you know, like you were saying, you know, I wanted the vaginal delivery and it
Yeah.
didn't happen. So my family is not praising me. So, you know, or sometimes it's very hard to breastfeed, you know, sometimes your nipples bleed, you know, it's
Mm.
painful. It's like there's a whole shadow part of motherhood that nobody speaks about. And it's the same as in yoga practice, you know, there's a lot of stuff that needs to come out. Like now that we have trauma informed yoga, when I first started, nothing, you know, you just
Mhm.
had to go and digest, oh my God, this is coming. And in my book, you know, I speak about a lot of that, you know, because I was ready to speak about it. But in the first years, I was not. I was really like alone. And speaking with other women is so important, of women that have been in the journey, of women that can be uh, your tribe, you know, that you can share with them, that you can explain them, that they're going to understand, that they're not going to judge you. Because if you go to the wrong person, you know, they're going to say horrible things to you. Oh, you should never have done yoga, you know, you should praying to Jesus Christ, and that's the devil. I've been told that in my culture.
Okay.
And I know that's not true. I know this was my path. My Vedic chart confirms it. And I know that what I have been through is what I needed for my own growth.
Mm.
So it's important to stay open that maybe things are not going to be hunky dory. And there's going to be days that you're going to feel very low. And postpartum depression is real. I experienced it after my traumatic birth with my son Theo. And, you know, I was crying every day and I should have been very happy. And I was feeling like, why I'm so ungrateful, you know, and the body had been through such a traumatic experience, you know, forceps is horrible. And I fully understood it like 3 months after the baby was born. And I fully understood that depression many years after it happened.
Mm.
So if you feel low, if you feel alone, please find a woman, not your partner again. Your partner probably they was gonna say, you know, no, no, it's nothing because they don't know what you
Yeah.
do. It's so. it's so visceral again, you know. It's so, and sometimes you cannot even put it into words. And this is where having guidance and inspiration is important. If you have a teacher, if you have a group of women, if you have girlfriends, if you have, you know, people that love you and that are going to be there for you no matter what, it's so important.
The tribe that you cultivate is important, and that's why it's so important to reach out to other women who have been on the same journey, which is why I'm reaching out to you. I think you had a lot of valuable lessons for us, and I think this conversation is going to help many women.
Mm.
um, is there anything else you'd like to share with our with anyone who's watching this video? Anything else, including where they can find you? Like if they have any questions about anything that you've said, or they want some direction, some anything to contact you. Where can they contact you? You can tell us about your classes also, any workshops.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I would like to recommend a book to all of you, and I have been sharing it in my social media in Mothers of Ashtanga that you can find it. And it's a book that since we started like connecting with each other, it came back to me. It was very, and it's called The Parents Tao Te King. And it's by this, he's a man, his name is William Martin. And I remember having that book, Pragya, and I was like locked in the toilet with the book, and the babies were, Mama, what? And I was reading this book like pure gold, like pure wisdom, you know. And one of the things that he says in this book is like, don't try to make your kids extraordinary. That they are going to find for themselves. They have their path. Just teach them how to be here now in the ordinary world, you know. Teach them how to do the dishes, to mourn for a pet, how to be kind, how to, you know, that's all you can teach them. You cannot have the expectation of them being a huge human being or a, no, that really weighs on them. The parents' expectations are too heavy on kids. Just let them be themselves, you know, be there for them, celebrate their joys, and also celebrate their failures, because as we know, failures are the ground of spiritual growth. If we don't fail at something, then we are not growing.
Mm,
I would like to recommend to all parents actually this amazing book. And I have been feeling, I don't know why, that one day we're gonna meet and one day we're gonna have a retreat in a beautiful place in India, I don't know where, with all these teachings and come together. That's what I feel. It's like in this part of my life, I feel I really want to work with women. And I want to work with women that are mothers, because there's another, let's say, part of Ashtanga that is very flashy, that is all the, you know, super postures and all that, especially now with social media. And that can become very scary, you know, especially when we're mothers and we're watching this and say, you know, I'm not a yoga practitioner anymore. I cannot do this. This is beyond my, and Ashtanga is for everybody. That's my teachers said that so many times. Ashtanga is for everybody, for the old, for the young, for the sick, for the wounded. And as women, as mothers, we are actually wounded when we give birth. You know what it is, you know. We either have a cut or we're bleeding for 40 days, or we are like, we're wounded. There's a beautiful story, and I shared this in a podcast that I did with Harmonies later. If any of you wants to listen to it, about my own journey. And the story is about an indigenous woman in America. And when she started feeling the pains of labor, she would wake up quietly in the middle of the night and go to the river. And wouldn't even like wake up the husband. Give birth by herself. Clean
mm,
the baby, cut the cord, and then come back into the town, and she would be praised as a hero. And that's what each one of us is as mothers. We are warriors. Oh my God. Either way you bring a soul into this world is a huge, huge accomplishment. So feel very proud to have been chosen. That's what I have to say. I feel so proud. You know, seven souls chose me. I mean, I don't know what qualities they saw in me, but what I know is that each of my children is amazing. It's beautiful. They're breaking a lot of rules also in their
Mm.
culture. And I love that, because they have seen me. I am a wild force. I'm not gonna be, you stay there and cook and okay, watch me. So
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, maybe we can plan and meet, since you're in
Yes.
Bangalore and I come to Mysore often.
Yes, we should definitely we will meet when you're here. And where can we find you? Like where your email ID or how can anyone reach out to you?
Yes, please go to my website, marielacruz.com.
Okay.
And I'm going to be teaching an online intensive the first 2 weeks of June.
Okay.
And yeah, you can register and I'll send you the information. And the intensive is very beautiful. I've taught many online intensives since the pandemic, and I've met beautiful people from many parts of the world. And the beauty is that we come together in a sacred space, and the virtual shala becomes very powerful. I've seen a lot of transformation. And also, yeah, if you want to read my autobiography, Void is a feather
Good.
birth. I was gonna say birth. Yeah, kind of, but birth also. Because as yoga practitioners, we're also giving birth to ourselves.
Hmm.
And that's a parallel process, and we have pains and we have obstacles and we have expectations, and what matters is that we flow with our heart, and we take refuge in our teachers, and surrender, like you were saying, surrender to yoga, surrender to love, surrender to the now.
Mm. And when is your next trip to Mysore? When do you usually come to Mysore?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. I would love to come back as soon as possible. And let's see what life happens, but I will let you know for sure.
Yes,
Would
yes,
love
and
to
we
meet
can plan. Yeah.
you. And
Yes, it's so close. It's so close to Bangalore. I suppose you land in Bangalore, right? And then
sure. And then I take the taxi 3 hours
okay.
to Mysore. Have you been in Mysore?
Yes, many times. I've
Oh,
actually in 2015, I think I went to Gokulam also. I practiced with Saraswati for 15 years.
that's
Yeah.
lovely. That's
Mm.
so wonderful. Yeah, she's
It,
an incredible teacher.
yes,
Yeah,
she's
I'm gonna be starting with her now that my Guruji is not here in this physical form. I know he's still here in many
yes,
other ways, but I'm very happy to practice with her because one time in 2007, I was pregnant with my fifth boy, and Sharaji sent me to his mom. So she was the one that taught me the modifications for primary series, and I will always be grateful for that. And she's a great example for all women,
yes,
especially in the Indian world.
yes,
She started teaching, and only men could practice, only men could teach, and
yes.
herself she broke a lot of of conditioning also. So I really admire her. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I admire her a lot. I remember the first time she saw me or I
Mm,
looked at her, I really felt like so they call her Maji, Ma in Mysore, and I could understand why, so you do get that motherly
mm,
feeling that your mom or your mother ma ma is like it's a deeper word than just then it denotes so many more things, a certain amount of like love, protection, security. So when
yeah.
I looked at her, I could feel all that, and I could understand why she was called Maji by everybody. um
Oh yeah, she's lovely. I saw her in February. I went to give my condolences for Sharaji, and she was so settled. It really, because I think it's the worst pain that any
yeah,
mother can go through. To lose your baby, your child, no matter how old they are.
yeah,
And yet she was so settled, so like she was exiting the shala after teaching, and I feel so much for her, and I know now is her time, because I don't know, that's how things happen, but she was kind of eclipsed by her son. And now that her son is not there, she's fully empowered, you know, and she may be 80 plus, and she's so wow. So
Yes.
that energy, that type of women is what we need, you know, to hold space for us for our own blossoming. So, like for example, when you come to my classes, I don't have any expectation about you. I just want you to enjoy the practice and be there as the best that you can. You know, I always tell my students that are moms, for example, to bring their babies into the shala. So I had many of them that would turn off the camera and breastfeed and then back. And that's perfectly fine. It's like it's so beautiful to come together, even in this way. So I'm
Yes.
really happy. Thank you so much for inviting me, Pragya, to this. And I hope that your
Thank
motherhood journey unfolds, you know.
Thank you so much. The
Thank you.
conversation has been very enlightening for me, and
Yes.
I'm sure it's been enlightening for a lot of the people who are watching as well. I will make sure to link all to provide all the links in the notes in the comments. So you know, for people who are watching this, who are listening to this, you can you know, the books that you recommended, your book as well, your website, everything I'll link down below.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you so much for your time.
And I hope to be back in India very soon. I miss India so much. You have no idea how I miss it.
And that's when we will meet in person.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
so much. Take
Thank
care.
you, Mariam. Namaste.
Namaste.